once.
Anyway, so
That was a good one.
That was the first second.
The synergy in this area.
What this podcast can turn into, it can be a media company for Carmel.
Podcast on the Plaza is about Carmel and the interesting people and the interesting things that are going on.
And people are very hungry to know what's going on around them.
Seeing where it started and where it's going, the trajectory is amazing.
Everything has just really solidified that in my mind that this truly is limitless.
I'm impressed.
there isn't anything like it right now in Carmel, and that is just an insider look into the city and what makes it great. We do have our newspapers and our magazines and things like that, but we don't have something where you can actually hear the voices, hear the stories without being edited.
Samantha Lamar was the founder of Podcast on the Plaza, and she's a part of Synergize.
It's called Synergize, and it is kind of a business, but realistically, I think it's just a way of life. It's a mentality and a mindset and a belief. A community of lifelong friends trying to make life-changing impacts together.
Well, I can't do Synergize justice. Synergize, to me, is our own chamber of commerce. I mean, they are bringing in people who care about Carmel. They're uniting us, connecting us, and we're able to leverage that love to help then nonprofits, to help other organizations.
When someone's like, what's Synergize? I know that it's not as easy to just explain, but what do you tell them?
Gosh, I say it's like the mafia, only good people. We don't kill anybody, but we're like this big family. Like, we really look after each other. It's like, oh, you're part of Synergize? Yeah. Hey, a Synergize member needs help, and then we're all there to help them. Or somebody's opening a business. So many times I would say, oh, Synergize is great, and you just need to go. You just need to go and see what it's like. But this way I can say, hey, you can listen to a podcast. Listen to us on the podcast. So that's where that came about. But in the process of doing the podcast for Synergize, we realized this was about the city of Carmel, because Synergize was born in the city of Carmel. Carmel has been a great place, a platform to bring about the vision of Synergize because of the people there. And we realized that not only do we want people to know about Synergize, but we want them to know about Carmel and what makes Carmel such a wonderful city to live in.
So where we do the podcast, Midtown, Java House, it just seems like a very centralized hub.
We like to get a lot of people that are deeply intertwined in the city onto the podcast. Of course, the mayor was on it, director of Parks and Rec.
Denise Jensen, Gigi's Playhouse. Amazing place. I loved hearing about it, knew nothing about it. Of course, Chief Hawbush, Fire Chief Hawbush. I don't want to make his head get any bigger, but he was one of my favorites too.
Brian Kelly owns Current Publishing.
It's not scripted. We do like to stay open and real, so that if there is something that comes up that we need to talk about, we just dive into it. I think it's important to bring up both sides of stories, but in a way that is respectful and fun. And, I think that we can, through the podcast, show that that's possible, that we can talk about both sides of an issue and still get along.
When you get to pull back the curtain and you get to see the people that have either built the community, that are fueling the community, that are shaping the community, you start to see that there's a lot of unity within our community.
I want to help make Carmel feel even smaller than it already is. I want people to feel like their voice matters, that they're not just one in a million citizens.
To share your story with somebody is to have allowed them to have traveled your lifetime journey with you.
We want other city leaders who will also be listening to this podcast to know what, the work that was put into it. Brainerd didn't wave a magic wand and everything happened. No, it wasn't that simple. I know that other city leaders, they want to improve their cities like we have, so they need to see that, look, it's not going to be easy. But if you have that visionary and you have the right people around you, then you can get these things done. Also, I see the podcast as an opportunity for sponsors, for other companies to get involved in the community by being sponsors for the podcast. That way their name can get out there too, and then they can be more involved in the community work that we do. Like we're going to be podcasting live from Carmel Fest. We'll be podcasting from the Chris Kendall Market.
I'd like to see us out in the community, and we would have people who would want to come and participate and cheer us on, and maybe even get involved with questions or why does this happen? Why does that happen? So information, connectivity, and interesting people is what I hope we continue to bring to the listeners.
If you enjoy listening to it, we'd love for you to subscribe and to listen to it. If you'd love to be a guest on it, share your heart, your story, and your perspective, we would love for you to do that. But I think the Podcast on the Plaza is that bridge that can create common unity between communities.
After a while, you'll start to see the heart behind some of these stories, and I think you'll find that the people on the podcast will start to be reflections of friends and people that you love in your life. And I don't think it gets much better than adding more great friends to your life. So if Podcast on the Plaza helps with that, I think it's a job well done.